Okay, so now we're officially on, and I'm Laura Jane, and I'm here with my friend Cassandra Vitale. Am I saying that
Yeah,
right?
that works. Uh-huh.
Yes, yes. And I'm so thankful that you're here, Cassandra, and making time for this. We get with you today after you and your power hubby. You guys are the local power couple. I like to think of you, but I got to talk to him yesterday. Yeah, so thank you so much for making time for this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I was remembering actually that you and Fabian were some of the first people I talked to when I started to realize I wanted to do these kind of conversations. So I'm thankful to be back with you. And yeah, part of what I would love to hear from you about, because I've gotten to watch you being a business owner and a leader in the community and a coach of many people as you've been going through this. And pretty quickly I watched you kind of wrap, it seemed like from afar anyways, or from seeing online and even seeing you a little bit in person, that you just like somehow wrapped your brain around the truth of what's happening and found a way to roll with it. And in the meantime, like inspiring others along the way with your posts. So, I mean, yeah, what do you want to share about how that's been for you and some of how you've done that?
Well, I definitely went from back in January being like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just it's just the flu, that kind of thing, to being like, oh, this is becoming a serious thing, to being like, I don't know if I should listen to the hysteria that seems to be about this, to then seeing that regardless of what my personal thoughts about the whole situation is, because we really don't know. It's really interesting living in this world that we live in right now, because there's like all this information, but no one knows what's going on.
Yeah, right.
There's like all this news, but no one knows what's true and what's not true. So we have to follow our intuition. And it's a matter of, how much we've practiced that, I think, too, and how much we trust ourselves. But I just started really seeing that the trend was moving toward closing businesses down and closing down schools and closing things down. And I mean, my business, I own a yoga studio. My business is community based. It's all about in-person interactions and group interactions. And I knew that that was not going to work out for us as far as doing the social distancing, or that's what they're calling it. I personally don't really agree with that term. If anything, physical distancing is good, but that's how I feel about that term. But so I thought, well, I better get on top of this. I'm seeing the trend, and I don't want to get caught off guard. So I want to be ready. So I basically like warned all the teachers, like, hey, so this is happening. I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to the news and whatever is going on, but get ready. We're probably going to have to do our yoga classes online pretty soon. And, some of them were like, really, what? And some of them were like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So Fabian and I just figured out how to do it logistically, how to get the word out to everybody, how to create the classes, get all the teachers set up with their tech, get all the tech going. And so basically I just made the announcement on March 13th and said, okay, we're closing the studio down. At the time, I thought maybe we'd only have to do 2 weeks. So we were supposed to open up today, actually, which, now that's not happening. We're just going to keep doing the online thing. And by Sunday, so that was Friday. And then by Sunday, we were online with our classes. Everyone was all set to go. It's been going pretty well. I mean, we've had lots of students participating. We've been generating some revenue. And then really what ended up happening was about 3 days later, the state of California and the county, Los Angeles County, mandated that all gyms and fitness studios close. Yeah. So I knew, I kind of saw it coming and got ready, and then it ended up happening. So we were all ready. We were rolling. We were rocking and rolling by the time some of the other places, I think, were like, what are we going to do? So I feel thankful that because I definitely battled with it in my heart and my soul. Like, should I do this? Is this overreacting?
Yeah.
Is this really what's right? And then I realized that, that's a good idea. And it ended up working out for us, that we worked our little butts off for the whole weekend long to just get everything online, and it's been rocking and rolling. So we have students who are participating. Everyone's been really thankful, including me. So
yeah. And I love how you started with how it was about following your intuition to kind of know what felt right to do through this, and even how that's really a part of how we can get through this more with making sense of the information. And I love that. I feel like you and Fabian are such grounded spiritual people in that, because I really feel like you do have a very spiritual side that you teach, and you're got a lot of knowledge about like the tarot systems, right, and astrology. And so you got all the woo woo, right?
Yeah.
But you're also so you both seem very present and aware with the current events in a way that's like a nice modern version of maybe what a yogi or someone who's seen as that kind of person. It's just, and that's a point, like that really shows that benefited you to be present and aware. And even though you were still making sense of your own perceptions of the situation and the information, but that you were able to react like that, right? It's like a practical example of why we want to be grounded in the world in a sense, right? Even as we have our spirituality. Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate that you both really model that. And how's that for you currently with staying present with, I mean, how do you handle your news consumption? How do you
I mean,
that at this point?
I made a commitment a while back to taper off as much as possible the national news feed in my life. I don't really pay that close attention to what is going on with, I mean, it's impossible to not hear things because I have other friends that follow stuff, but I unfollowed all the major like kind of national news sources that I was getting, and I've been focusing for a few years now on local and state news more than anything. So I keep better track of what's going on in the city of Long Beach where we're at, like what's the mayor doing, what's the council doing, what are the regulations and laws, and what's happening here, what's happening with my local business colleagues, you know, all that stuff. And then what's happening in the state as far as state legislature and things like that. So that's one way that I taper my, you know, consumption as far as that goes. I mean, I hear about what the president's doing, and I hear about what, you know, the Senate's doing and the House and all these things. I don't seek it out so much. Because it's just so much to keep track of. And I mean, I truly believe that our sphere of influence, you know, what's around us is really, that's what we can make the most impact on. Anyway, so knowing, for me, that's kind of what I do as far as news goes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've had tons of moments of feeling very anxious and very scared and you know, worried about things. And I guess I'm thankful that I have an awesome partner who we can talk about stuff together, and I do have a lot of tools. I've been doing a lot of breathing, of breathing. And then, yes, being a leader in the community, I know people look to me, and it's kind of like I look to myself. I'm like, what would the leader version of me do right now?
That's
so then I can offer that to myself and then share it.
And do you do a lot of journaling as part of your lifestyle? Or a little bit, or not?
I do a little bit of journaling here and there. I don't have the regular kind of practice that Fabian has. Nothing like that. But
I would imagine a lot of forms of meditation are part of your daily life.
I mean, I spent some time, I led a little tapping circle for the yoga teacher trainees last night, and then I tapped by myself afterward for a while just to work out my own stuff. And I would say the biggest practice, exercise. I love exercise. That has been so helpful. I've been doing different classes with trainers and stuff on Instagram or stuff like that. And so that's really grounding, being inside the body. Yoga, of course, but I would say probably the biggest one that I've really been using is just breath work, just grounding myself in those big inhales, big exhales, a little bit of chanting mantra, a little bit of,
Yeah.
Ganesha,
Nice.
remove those obstacles, clear the way for us.
Um,
Yeah.
isn't that amazing? How I agree. Breath has been probably one of my biggest tools. And I know, like I mentioned before we got on, that I think of you as someone who's developed an expertise and understanding of things like our nervous systems, right? And emotions and how to take care of those important parts of ourselves. And I don't know, anything you want to share along those lines? Like, what are your thoughts right now? And that's my concern for a lot of people right now, for sure, is just their inner state through
Totally.
it all,
Yeah,
and
me
the
too.
momentum of that.
I mean, as far as the woo perspective,
Yeah.
I think I do see that we are, and a lot of people agree with me, humanity is on an ascension path. Like, humanity is rising. Humanity is expanding consciousness. People are waking up in mass.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is a spiritual war going on where it's that fear and that desire to pull down away from that ascension and that awakening, that pulling down in order to maintain control and kind of hold on, versus what's happening is the rising and the expanding.
Yes.
So
I love that.
keeping humanity, keeping all of our people, in a space of remembering who we are, why we're here, what is our purpose, what is it that we've been working toward. Like, just because we're in a circumstance that we didn't know was going to happen, that we didn't expect, that some people knew, but that we didn't necessarily see on our path, doesn't mean we have to completely stray from our path and stray from our goals.
Yes. Yeah. And some of us even embracing it as exactly part of our path, right?
It is. It's 100% part of our path. Like, whatever's in front of us is part of the path.
Yeah, right. Because I feel like it's rocked a lot of us with things like faith and how much do we create our reality, and how, just some of those thoughts and belief systems that we might have started to feel like we were getting strong in. I know, me too. And then it kind of like gets questioning that, like, okay, wait, do we still have any power here? And is any of that true? Yeah. And some of that, I think, goes with like this higher maybe perspective, like you just shared, that you can see the bigger picture, the evolution is happening, right? This awakening kind of thing.
I mean, I think that as far as our nervous systems go, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on it, but I would say that I have a pretty well working understanding of it. And reading the news and hearing these things, I mean, I've experienced it, when the governor made the mandate of shutting down things, every time we had to stay inside a little more inside our homes, it was like a shot of adrenaline. It was like that, like, fight or flight kind of feeling. So I think there are a lot of people out there who, even more than just in regular life, which I think they say that, like, in regular life, people have like 250 times per day get activated into the sympathetic nervous system fight or flight response.
Wow, I had never heard that statistic. That's crazy.
Yeah, like, it's all day long, people are getting like activated.
It's like a habit, right? It's just like,
some of us are doing it to ourselves with our own thoughts. But that's because of the programming and everything we're doing. But now I think people are just in it more than usual, even more. Because it's so scary, it's so uncertain, it's so, we have the fear of getting sick, we have the fear of not having the things we need, we have the fear of other people, we have the fear of, some people have the fear of the government and the ways that our rights and our privileges are being usurped or encroached upon. So there's all of these things going on in people's minds and in our world, and it definitely activates that fight or flight. People are calling it panic. So my intention is really just to support people in what I mean by toning the nervous system, is bringing ourselves back out of that that sympathetic nervous system fight or flight response for survival, and back into, many of us also do have, those of us that are privileged, we have a home, we have food, we have things, we're in our houses. And in a lot of ways, we're in the position to give. We don't necessarily need anything. We have the position where, we're abundant. And so we can, so toning our nervous system, getting ourselves into that space of, that rest and digest parasympathetic space, we take care of our own selves, then we can take care of other people, then we can take care of our world, then we can give, right? Because we have that capacity. It's just a matter of, I think, activating the capacity, not, realizing the capacity. It's there. It's not something we have to get.
Yeah, right. And I love that too, to get into the idea that the whole homeostasis process is built into the body, that like our body knows how to find balance if we can support it too.
Yes.
Helps me. And even in thinking about how our body is going to handle the virus, that kind of, it helps my thinking too, just the belief in the human body and what's possible, right? So yeah, it's such a mental game as much as ever, right?
Yeah.
With how we're handling and perceiving things. Yeah.
Yep. So it's just really, giving yoga to people, being in our bodies, having routines in our lives that are grounding, tapping, EFT, and breathing practices, they're all so important. They're important for us to do all the time. And then they're really important for us to not abandon during this time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I find that the thinking ahead is part of what stresses me out so much, even though I've been up until now been in this, like, I love to think forward about what I'm creating, right? So it's interesting to feel like, in a sense, I don't want to think about the future as much right now because it can feel scary. But I like to think of it like, I was on a friend's live stream about using this as such as potent time to create what's next, right? And and isn't it interesting, I guess you do know a lot about astrology too, how it seems like the astrology is really going with all this. Is that true, what you are watching and knowing about this thing?
Everything that I've seen and read is saying that there are a lot of parallels, like historical events are occurring, where the planets are right now versus where the planets were when a similar historical events occurred, they're aligned.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as like human consciousness and the energies that affect our lives here, there are patterns.
Yeah, right. And it's even probably teaching people like you who know a lot about it, how much even more true it all can be, right? And just
I love my confirmation bias. It all matches. It all matches.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So, yeah, I think it's a really important, potent time. And you mentioned something about like being afraid of the future, which I get. Like there's a lot of evidence around us, and there's a lot of narrative being written about the doom and the gloom and all the bad things, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to be like this, and people are going to freak out, and now I'm not suggesting that we deny any of those pieces or parts of our reality that exist. But I am suggesting that we stop telling ourselves that it's for sure going to happen and expecting it to happen and planning for that to happen and creating it with our consciousness and with our energy.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to be right about that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think we do. I think there are some people who are kind of receiving some, positive emotional feedback from, I knew this was going to happen, that kind of thing. I knew that everything was going to go wrong. I knew it was all going to be bad. And those people aren't bad or wrong for being in that space.
Yeah.
It's just a learned behavior, and it's a learned program that we reward ourselves by expecting the worst.
Right.
And when we get it, that self-fulfilling prophecy, like, oh yeah, I knew that this bad thing was going to happen. I was ready for it. I was planning for it. Versus like you said, what do we want to happen? What is the future that we want to create? And then, of course, taking action. Like right now, I'm mad that it's possible that the county of LA wants to shut down all of the markets, the restaurants that have turned into markets. They want to stop them from being able to distribute food. So, like, to me, this is an opportunity to exercise our voice and our power. Like, we need to tell our representatives, not our leaders, the people that we have elected to do our work for us. They work for us. We need to tell them, hey, this is wrong. If it's a permitting issue, figure out the permit. This is a special circumstance. Like, get it together, guys. We need to have food being distributed widely. We need to have these restaurants get to stay in business. Like, food is a human need, and we can't be relying only on these grocery stores to supply to everyone all the time. Like, that's silly. It's going to create panic. It's going to create more of a public health issue, right? So I sent an email this morning to the health department who's wanting to align with what LA County is wanting to do. Anyway, it's a whole thing about, I guess, going back to what you were saying about being grounded and practical and using our power. These are the moments where we get to use our power and use our voice, paying attention to what's going on in order to affect our reality, in order to affect, we can't just really let our representatives, they can only do so much. We can't let them just make all the decisions all the time. Like, that's not actually what we hired them for. We hired them to listen to us and listen to our needs.
Yeah, that's such a more cooperative model too. And gosh, that is so helpful, I think, to really focus on how it can feel so different and so much better too, to respond to frustration about a situation with like creative action like that, and being more focused on how we can help, which it does require being at a certain level of, of peace or where we can even have the energy to do that kind of thing. I don't like the word peace, but
I think it's like an empowerment.
So much better, right, than just being mad or upset. It feels so much better to actually creatively respond and to do something with that energy. And I feel like you're someone who you've learned that about yourself, and now you're using that, right? You're like, if I'm angry, that means, how can I help? And I'm going to take action, and that's going to actually make you feel better and even help you help. Right?
Yeah. I mean, one of my core values is dignity. That is something that really matters to me. And when I know that when I get really angry, oftentimes it's because I feel like that value has been violated. Like, people's dignity is not being respected and upheld, and there's no space for it. And food distribution right now during this time is an issue of human dignity, and people need access to food, and businesses need access to, get to stay in business. So yeah, I mean, as far as that specific kind of micro example of something that I care about right now.
Right, and just a way that you could respond to your awareness that you care and your feelings about it, and taking that out into life, right? It's just, I think, what we're going for with these processes that a lot of us have been in with ourselves, right? That could be then that, like, at a time like now, that we could be, you can see, I think, that those of us who are finding the resolve to be creating right now, we have a different kind of energy going on, right? It feels good to feel like have the energy to help right now, right? Just thankfully. And some people don't. Like, I want to be so loving and compassionate about that too, right? Because there's such a diversity in how we're responding, and for so many reasons, right? So
I mean, people, I certainly am not advocating that people don't take care of what they need. And I think right now many people need to rest, need to sleep more, need to need to cocoon even more because of all of the, external energies that are coming at us. So it's just a matter of what is best for you or for me, or, for whoever.
Back to that, like, that's how you started talking about your response with the business, is letting it be an intuitive thing. So Yeah, well, and I appreciate that you had the energy to do this, because some of the people that I reached out didn't feel like they were ready to get on and talk about right now and have other people watch it. So thank you for being up for that. And
Sure, my pleasure.
yeah, I guess it seems like a good time to call it towards a close.
Sure.
But first of all, I want to give you a chance to say anything else you want to say, and then mention how people can reach you. This will be on Facebook, and then it'll also be on YouTube for generations to come. So whatever you want to say at this point.
Sure. Well, I would say that I highly encourage people to take up a simple breathing practice. It doesn't, you don't have to commit to doing yoga every day. You don't have to commit to an hour-long meditation. Just even if you give yourself throughout the day 2 or 3 deep breaths here and there, where you stop and you really feel that expansion and the breath coming down. Oh, wow, I can breathe really deep when I try, right? And then feel that release throughout the day. Just giving ourselves that pause, especially the long exhale, can disrupt. It can be that pattern interrupt that we really need, disrupting that fight or flight response, because long exhales are what tells our body, oh, I'm safe now. I'm in a place that I can relax. And that rest and digest part of our nervous system. So when we're in that fight or flight, we're not digesting our food. Our cells are not regenerating. We're not getting the nutrients that we need from we're not doing all of the things that our body needs in order to maintain its health and its wellness and its immunity. So just simple, just do some deep breath throughout the day, right? Keep it simple. That's what I'm advocating for right now, taking that pause. And then if you need more, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to LJ as well. I've got EFT tapping circles every Friday night at 7 p.m. and they're free. If you go to my website, www.freespirityoga.com, go to the schedule, you can see that class is on the main class schedule, Friday nights at 7. So that's EFT tapping. That's a free offering that I just decided to throw out there. It's not something I usually do. But for during this whole time that we're in quarantine, we'll have those available, and who knows what it will turn into moving forward. And of course, if you want to do yoga, you can join our yoga classes as well. You can find me on Facebook, Cassandra Vitale. You can find me on Instagram, same thing, Cassandra Vitale. That's my handle. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really do feel like this conversation will be really helpful for people who listen. And then people who already know they love you, I feel like will be kind of excited to hear from you at this time. So thank you for being willing. Yeah.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yes. I'm so happy to be in touch. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day over there.
Same to you. Likewise.
Okay. And thank you all for being here watching. Appreciate it. All right. Bye, Cassandra. Bye.